Hey, boys and girls, weather report for June 25th, 2021. We're going to take a bite out of Otangelo today, I think. What do you think of that?
Take a big bite.
It sounds disgusting, actually. Like,
Yeah.
Monkey for Banana refers to him as Old Tan Jello. Like, what flavor would Tan Jello be?
I don't know. Root beer.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that ain't so bad.
So I was just informed backstage that once you've had your second COVID shot, you can operate other people's penises.
Yep. Nobody knows this because nobody's ever tried.
And
go ahead
I've been concentrating. Did yours move yet, Mike?
Shit, was that you? God damn it, stop it, John.
Oh, shit.
That's the first time it's moved in 10 years.
What do I get myself into every day? I just don't know.
Okay. So
can I mention something real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, Atheist Junior, he is still here, right? Okay.
Yes.
I got some sort of reply from one of our secular Jesus thumpers about that that comment on your that comment thread on your channel. And I was able to follow that link to the channel, and now I can see it, which is weird. But anyway, so I was able to post a response and everything. So
now you can see
it suddenly back. Now I can see it. So
yeah.
Okay,
what's going on there?
The tweet that you linked, AJ, says you are unable to view this tweet because this account owner has limits on who can see tweets.
Okay, I'll fix that.
What?
Well, yeah, some people only you have to submit a request to become a follower, and then you can see their tweets.
Yeah. So, Scott, you got a whole bunch of stuff on water.
Okay, I fixed it.
Okay,
Water is on my brain today, simply because of coincidences that are popping up. If you are a viewer of the excellent Laughing in Disbelief YouTube channel, every morning at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Central, Andy, and I can't remember his last name, that I feel so bad. Andy does he shows funny videos and comments on the news and then reads everybody else's side chat. And he did a thing on how that collapsed condo in Miami, which is, on both sides is adjacent to a body of water, has been sinking for at least 2 millimeters every year since the 90s. And they, I think, built it in 81, and it has been sinking since the 90s. And so it went down into the land, or it made, I guess, a little pit or whatever. And then other things, I'm sure, contributed to the fall of the building. But yeah, it's pretty weird. Things are sinking around Miami and around that part of Florida. But see, this has just been one in a long chain of things having to do with, I guess, water usage, climate changing, and so on and so forth. I'm going to share, if I can find my Google Maps, my screen here, in case, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are much more traveled than me. Maybe they're from California, but I just thought it might be good to see what the Salton Sea where it's located. It's near San Diego. immediately west and a bit north. It's a rather large sea with quite a history, and it's been losing water rapidly since the 1980s. And there is a link to a video in the description where a guy who grew up around the Salton Sea in that era is just pointing out how far, and we're talking, in many places over, a mile or so, the Salton Sea has been receding since the 80s, and of course it's I think it's accelerated since then, and it just blows your mind, and it's incredible, and it looks like it basically is a combination of climate change issues, the fact that people are managing water to the point where water just doesn't seem to terminate in the Salton Sea much anymore, and things like that. But that was pretty eye-opening, and it just seems to, like I said, I'm just not meaning anything by it other than the fact that I just seem to have been noticing it more. Let's see. Also, I don't have an article about that, but Lake Mead on the Colorado River has been shrinking so low that they did not even register a low point recently. The water was so low, there was no water flowing in certain areas. So,
Wow.
So it got really low. And of course, in these places, you can see these huge bathtub ring-like things where the water flows by and deposits, and mineralization occurs, and it's just disheartening to see how much water has been lost. And then this one, I'll say this one. There's another one that you'll see in the description. California is sinking, and that is one where basically due to bad water management, as well as drought and things like that, the ground in certain areas in California, and you'll just have to watch the video to see where, is just sinking. It's getting lower and lower, and they're really concerned about flooding now because it's sunk so low. What used to be, and we're talking 5 to 10 feet in certain places. And so what used to be ground level is now below ground level, and that makes for disaster in the future.
Do we need any other evidence of geological entropy?
I did not know geological entropy was a thing, but
Oh yeah, everything has entropy. Didn't you know that?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
even crystals.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, just look at speed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty entropic.
Hey, I wanted to ask the chat something. So, I on the video on YouTube on my phone, and then I tried to click on the link that Atheist Junior left. I think it's a Twitter link or something there in the chat, and then all it does is it brings up the menu.
Yeah, we fixed that.
What's that?
He fixed it.
No. I'm not talking about that issue. I'm talking about it's a YouTube issue. Like it brings up the menu, like where you can block somebody or.
Really?
Try
Yeah.
try tapping it without holding it down. Try
It's like
make sure
giving
you're
a
not
quick tap.
make sure you're not pressing it too long.
Yeah, no. Even just when maybe it's just my issue.
Well, I put it in the private chat as well.
Well, right. I can access this through that. I just was wondering
Okay.
if anybody else in the chat was having that problem, or if it's just a me problem.
You got to make sure you're really pressing on the link specifically, not anywhere
Yeah.
else. You got to make sure you're tapping on the link.
Yeah,
'Cause I have big fat
yeah.
fingers, so it's easy for me to press in the wrong area.
I've never had any problem before, so I don't know.
Did you want me to share that, AJ?
Yeah, if you could play it, it's pretty short. You could let it loop a few times. It loops
Oh.
really well.
Let's see. Let me see what I can do. I'm not sure how it's going to pop up here. It's got ads and a bunch of other crap on the side of it, or news or something. Share audio. Will that work? Yeah, that should work. Come on, you can do it. You can do it, StreamYard. Okay.
Make it full screen if you can.
You can. Yeah, but full screen is going to do what? It's going to go full screen.
Just so people can see it.
Well, it's just going to go full screen within
okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Ken Hovind. My name is Ken Hovind. My name is Ken Hovind.
Oh no, you're gonna get top speed.
My name.
What?
You're gonna get copyrighted.
Thank you.
How
I
can he
think
be
you'll be okay.
operated by that?
Just the part at the end where it actually starts to play the song, they might.
Oh, that's pretty short.
Yeah.
That was like a second, right?
I think it'll be fine.
We'll see.
I mean,
we'll see what
plus
happens.
transformative property you were sharing, like he
Yeah.
Yeah.
changed it.
Yep.
Yeah, they're like,
So-
oh, well, you played 3 seconds of it that wasn't edited, so fuck you.
Yeah. So then,
Oh, I was just going to say, let me pass out some Altoids to everybody for when we get to the taking a bite out of Otangelo. You guys are going to need them.
I don't know.
Mhm.
Root beer Jello is pretty cool. I don't know. I
Take
kind
a
of wish
bite
he'd
at a
show
time.
up because I want to ask him a question about his knowledge of biochemistry. Anyway, so what we have on the screen here is redefined living. Speaking of nonsense, did you know that Andrew believes that there's no difference between reproductive fitness and overall fitness? And he goes on and says, Andrew says that a genome full of disease is no different than a genome with no disease. As long as they can both reproduce, they're both identical. No difference. And then, so according to Andrew, having cancer and dying at 40 years old is equally fit as having no cancer as long as both can reproduce before 40. And then he says, so you can literally have every disease possible that will allow you to reproduce. And Andrew says you are equally fit to having no disease. What do you think of that, Andrew? That was pretty cool.
I was more concerned about the comment LPP had near the end. But okay, whatever.
I can go back to that. Okay, what did LPP say?
The second comment to last, his comment there.
It's like the const.
So, but
The
that's bullshit, right? Andrew never said anything of the kind, right?
Yeah, or wait about.
It's a total. It's the same problem actually Sal Cordova has, and I don't know why he has this problem, but he has this problem. He thinks that fitness should be defined as some clever engineering property and how well tuned things are, rather than defining fitness as reproduction.
Well,
and
I'm sorry.
our friend Danny has the same problem in that he doesn't quite understand what fitness means in natural selection and how it works. But I thought maybe we'd expound on it a little bit and put some of it out here.
Well,
I like Rob Neckness's comment. That should have been what LPP said.
So
Yeah.
as the moron in the room, tell me if I'm right. When you're talking about evolution, and all that, fitness just refers to the organisms that can best survive in their environment.
It
Right.
It really refers to a number. It's basically it's a numerical figure when you look at, and we can get into this a little bit, but it has very little to do with surviving in the environment. Well, it has a lot to do with surviving in the environment, I guess. But that aside, what it really means, what we're really interested into, is how genes change in populations over time. And that relies on a number called fitness. So fitness is a mathematical definition, basically. Do you agree with that, Andrew?
Yeah, well, I think I can explain it a bit more simply, or I might get this wrong. So if Dr. Dan's in the chat and he wants to correct something, please do. But so Don, fitness basically refers to the fact that organisms that are well adapted to their environment will tend to leave offspring more offspring that themselves are better adapted to that environment. So it's kind of how much you can contribute to the next generation, how much that contributes to the next generation. It's relative to the population as a whole. So, say for instance, you say this big fish is more fit than these smaller fish um, because it leaves more fish offspring that themselves become bigger and bigger. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Well, I would just add that it's not just about survival, it's about surviving long enough to reproduce.
Right.
Right.
The important thing
Only.
is reproduction.
Reproduction is the important part. And okay, so when Natty Boy came in here, with his bullshit from who's that, Jerry Fodor, with their claim against natural selection, I had never really. I mean, I think about the theory of evolution. I had never dwelled on what I thought natural selection should be called or how we should think about it or anything, because it is so built into the theory of evolution. It's impossible to do without it. That it's almost like I don't think about my legs a whole lot when I'm walking, unless I walk too far. Uh, I don't think about my hands when I'm taking a drink of coffee or whatever. It's just so built in. So anyway, so natural selection is both a mechanism and a theory. Okay, as a mechanism, we could talk about what it does as far as reproduction, what effect it has on the genome. Okay, there's genotype, which is all the genes you have, and then there's something called the phenotype, which is derived from that, and that interacts with some environment. And from all that, what you come up with is models. Okay, so natural selection is both a mechanism and a theory. Now, as a theory, it's about a whole collection of different models that we apply depending on the type of organism it is. Now, if it's a diploid organism, it's going to have some equations. Equations are going to be different than if it's if it just has one copy, the one chromosome, or if it has two, it's going to behave differently overall in a population. And when you start running through these models, there are some very law-like tenets in natural selection that tell you exactly how an ideal population would behave. And there are many different kinds of selection, but the three big ones are stabilizing, directional, and disruptive. And we could explain those at a later date. But you end up with different curves, and you end up with different changes in this genotype over time, depending on what you're modeling. Okay, so I mean, it's a very complicated theory, and I think today it should be more naturally called population genetics rather than, don't you think, and rather than natural selection, because natural selection is sort of a common man buzzword, survival of the fittest and all that bullshit. And
it makes it easier for the evolution deniers to straw man it with that.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Jerry Fodor and Natty Boy do. It's strawman the thing to the point where it seems tautological, that the most fit thing is going to survive the best. But it's much more complicated than that. When you start learning this stuff and you start actually running through Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium and all of these different effects on a population, there are some very surprising things that you find. Okay, and then you can add to that another part of the system is like genetic drift, linkage disequilibrium, where two genes are linked up, or just all sorts of things. You can do it. You could do a population model on one gene, or you can do it on two genes, or you can do it on an entire organism, or everything in between, right? So it's a very, very complicated theory, and there are volumes and volumes written on this stuff. So to me, that is a natural selection.
I just have to point out that that's one of my favorite things about Scott Duke is that he is such an optimistic dude and always seems to have a bright outlook on life. I I don't know. I think maybe he's being a little too optimistic with his interaction here with Danny.
Oh, is he talking to Danny?
Because he was asking, hey, what's your calendar look like? Maybe we can schedule a discussion between you two to clear things up. Well, if Danny's going to be part of the discussion, it probably won't be too clear. And Danny's, once again in there doing what I didn't experience myself, but I heard about it, that he's saying that you're afraid of him, and
it's like, hey, maybe we can schedule a discussion so you can call me a retard a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Well, as long as he behaves and he wants to come in and do a one-on-one with me on natural selection, I've been begging him to do that for about 4 months now, or since I met him, and he refuses. He came in once and he had to bring 2 assholes in. Asshole number 1 was Jack Enstrike, and asshole number 2 was, who's asshole number 2? I can't remember.
Yeah,
and they came in hostile, and they weren't willing to listen to anything. But anyway, it was not a one-on-one with Danny, which is what we'd want to set up. So
wait a minute, you've been trying to get him to do that for 4 months?
Yeah. And
that doesn't sound very cowardly to me.
Well, Danny thinks so, but then he's a philosopher, so he may. I don't know what he means by cowardly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, his name, is a synonym for testicles. So
that's true.
Nad's boy too.
Okay, so here's the second part of Redefined Living. Okay, so Redefined Living is talking here about, overall fitness, which is nothing that we're concerned about for natural selection, right? Only as it turns into a function. Like, you end up with a number for fitness, either relative fitness or what we call absolute fitness. Absolute fitness is how many offspring on average everyone in the population has. And what you do is you will pick one type of offspring, right? And you'll assign that a number 1. And from there, everything else is relative to that. It's usually the thing that produces the most offspring. You do a little division, a little rational number magic, and you come up with relative fitness.
Well, so is there like a set scale or something that you're using, or?
No, not at all. It's a spooky number. Okay, it's not something. In practice, you have to go a lot further, and you can actually take a population and you could take a phenotype, and you could do measurements. And they've done this. They've done massive studies on it, right? And they'll find out that it fits the theory really well, or in some cases doesn't fit the theory at all. So then you have to, or doesn't fit the model. So then you have to figure out what the hell's going on. And then you go back and you find out, it's something like linkage disequilibrium or something like that. It has nothing to do with the traits. Traits in the population are about basically embryology. And survival in an environment or niches is about ecology and embryology. So these things are like overlapping fields of science, basically. And the straw man and the trickery of Jerry Fodor is to conflate ecology and embryology with this fitness number and with the ideas of natural selection. So on one side you've got genetics, and then on the other side you've got the environment, and you've got a bunch of science in between, and it all hashes out as what we call the theory of evolution. And it's got a lot of tenets. I mean, a lot of things we have to consider, and we're learning new things every day. Any pushback on any of that, Andrew?
I don't think so. I would like to say something about what Redefined Living is saying here.
Yeah.
So I think the thing he's not getting is basically, say I have, or some other person or whatnot has a genetic disease, but it only really kicks into gear after sexual maturity. In that case, it doesn't really affect fitness, so it's kind of irrelevant to how the organism reproduces, because like everyone says, evolution only kind of cares about, in a broad sense, reproduction. So if however it happened before sexual maturity, then it would probably decrease the fitness of the organism. But just because you're bigger and stronger or whatnot, that too doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be fit, for instance.
Can I
Well,
just
and
say
a lot
that
of people. I'm sorry. I was going to say a
this
lot of.
comment from Little PP at the bottom is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever read in my life.
I know.
I'm done.
I mean,
Yeah.
don't
Holy
a lot
shit.
of people make that mistake that they equate fitness when talking about biology? They equate it to like the biggest, the baddest, the
Yes.
Yeah, they think by fit they mean physical fitness, which makes sense. I could see why people would make that distinction,
Yeah.
and it also
Yeah.
makes
kind
sense
of a
that
terrible term.
an animal or an organism that is physically fit would likely survive longer and be more likely to reproduce. It makes sense, but that's not what it means in the scientific term or the evolutionary definition of fitness.
Yeah,
Right.
and Sal Cordova goes on and on about this stuff. He talks about engineering marvels and how well the bat sonar is tuned and biophysics and all of that. And what he's trying to do is redefine fitness to be some sort of perfection, which is sort of when you think about it, that is a Christian mindset.
Yeah, it's a creationist mindset. Creationists can't come up with their own concepts. They have to take scientific definitions and try to change the definitions, or say these definitions aren't good enough.
Yep.
Well,
I mean, that's. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, even if something is fit, that doesn't necessarily mean it's perfectly designed or anything. Like, you can have something that just works and works better, but doesn't work perfectly. Right?
I mean, I was going to say it was like the creationists, they have one leg up on the flat earthers in that they can claim to have a model, but it's just not a very fleshed out model. It's just God did it. You talk about
it's a slippery model, basically.
Yeah. Like, but we don't have to explain because the supernatural being did it.
Yeah.
Can we see the next screenshot?
What's that?
Can we see the next screenshot?
I don't think I did one
Can
after
you go
that.
back to the other one? I would like to comment on something LPP said.
Okay.
Because he talked about WordPress and that as if that's equivalent to synapomorphies in nature. I honestly don't think LPP understands phylogenetics.
Probably not. I mean, why would he?
I mean, a lot of people don't understand phylogenetics. A lot of creationists don't understand it, but if you're going to talk about it, yeah.
Monkey for Bananas has also pointed out the real important thing about population genetics or natural selection, and that you're looking at populations. And you're looking back at what's going to happen to the genes over time. That doesn't have anything to do with traits. You don't need to know which traits when you're doing this sort of modeling. Basically, you do when you actually go out in the wild and you're looking at a particular species. Then you're going to use a whole lot of information to decide, well, why did this beetle on this island survive by dropping its wings? That sort of thing. You're going to be able to make good guesses. And then, of course, you can make predictions and you can measure more measurements and you can figure it out. But it becomes a part of the whole field. But if we were to take natural selection out of it and throw it away, as Natty Boy wants us to do, what the hell would we replace it with? I think what we would do is just rename it population genetics and call it a day. But we're still talking about the same thing.
Can you share just above that one you just shared? Snake was right. Posted something. Can you
that's a
share
good
that real quick?
Which
I
one?
Just thought it was funny that LPP is
two
saying
up above Snake. Snake is right. two comments above what you just shared on the screen.
These are screenshots.
No, you have a comment from our
the
live
YouTube chat.
chat.
Oh, okay.
Live chat. Yeah, he's talking about the live
Yeah,
chat.
I just think it's
Yeah,
funny
hey,
that
Snake was right. I just wanted to comment that, my apologies. I just wanted to comment, yeah, that was the joke. God did it isn't a model.
But here's the thing. It's not only that God did it and God created this perfection in Adam and Eve and all of the creatures on day 1 or day 6 or whatever, but it's also that that God got pissed off at his creation and he let it go to hell with genetic entropy. So they pretty much got anything that happens, they fit into their model with a shoehorn, basically, because they got the best of both worlds, right? Oh, yeah, that's genetic entropy. Oh, yeah, that's God's perfection. You know, whatever.
Redefine. Is this all the comments you have screenshotted? Because I know Redefine. He's one of those. One of the comments he made in this stream was, "You can't know anything without God." So we know nothing because we don't. You know, we don't believe in his God, so we can't know anything. So just so everybody knows that.
I just wanted to say real quick, I thought it was
go ahead.
funny that LPP is saying that Andrew is making stupid arguments and that he literally came on them. He literally came on Andrew's stupid arguments.
Yeah.
Right.
If you read his comment, like,
yeah, he had to jump in that stream.
I had to make that joke. I'm sorry. I just had to.
Speed. I think I'm in trouble with Icarus.
What'd you do? What'd you do to Icarus?
He says, based on the screenshots, he disagrees with me.
Oh, why?
What is it? What does that mean? Based on the screenshots,
I think it's a joke.
Oh, okay.
I see.
I don't know what that means.
Wait, Raw Nakedness said LPP came on Andrew.
He came on his he came on Andrew's stupid crap.
I don't know if that's what she means.
So Andrew took a crap and LPP literally came on it.
Okay, so then we ended up with this stream here, and what's happening?
Oh no.
I do want to go ahead and pass you for a little bit. I know you definitely wanted to come in and join. How's it going?
Oh yeah.
Hello.
Hold on a second. I have to slow this down a little bit. Is 1.25 going to do it for us? Is that too fast? Let me know.
Can you both hear me on the mic?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
Yes,
Yeah, I often have some mic issues, so just want to make sure. Okay, so I guess well, I don't really think even within the naturalistic worldview that the idea of evolution really explains too much at all, and that's because there are, like within a naturalistic worldview, there are certain events that happen in in what's believed to be the history of life. So you have well, first there would be the origin of mitochondria and chloroplasts. The next obvious event would like the origin of eukaryotes. Then the next obvious one would be like on the origin of multicellular life. And then you can kind of climb up to where you get to some transitions that under this paradigm would climb up to humans. Now the issue is that many of these changes, according to the standard time scale, of course, of like long ages and stuff.
Sure.
Many of this stuff took so long to happen that it actually doesn't make much sense to say that these happen because of adaptive changes per se.
Why?
Like if it took say billions of years for like if it took like say a billion years for the first eukaryote to start, then it's very doubtful to say that there's anything. Hold on one second.
Why?
Real quick, while we have some dead air, I just want to go ahead and acknowledge both Otangelo and Crimson Air. Thank you guys for joining us today.
So why? If it took a billion years, why? What was its point? Did you catch that, Andrew?
He may have been. I'm not sure. He may have been talking about endosymbiosis. in which case, yeah, that is literally an instantaneous event, pretty much. For other events, I of course disagree with him, but I think Icarus clarified, and yes, I would agree, Icarus. That's what I was trying to elaborate.
Oh, I thought we were going to ignore that.
Spade.
Natty boy, what?
Oh, no, somebody had put in a private chat that we were going to. Never mind. I thought you saw it.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah. Private chat. I don't know what that is, really. I don't know what you mean by that. Anyway, okay. So let's see. Otangelo comes in, and then we got, main. Oh, this one I love. I love this question. And how do you feel when they ask you this question?
Yes, I would like to ask Andrew. Andrew, what is your main evidence for evolution? And with evolution, I mean common ancestry, universal common ancestry, and the tree of life. That is the claim that all life forms descend from one common ancestor.
And I call it evidence, as in dance.
Oh,
but what is your main evidence? It's like and SFT does this all the time, and I think they all do it, but I mean, that is the most ridiculous, and you said it was a good question.
No, I didn't mean good question in what's your main evidence, since I meant like how do you support common ancestry. I may have misspoke there.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry.
Oh my God. And then you guys got into, let's see, the next thing you got into is, when you had admitted that you didn't know everything there is about biochemistry. You damn 17-year-olds, you don't have a PhD in biochemistry yet? What the hell is wrong with you? It's just,
I would say
you've only got the equivalent of a PhD in phylogenetics?
that if you don't have an understanding on a biochemistry level, Andrew, then you are basically empty-handed, because it's on that level that actually the mechanisms are operating actually to make all the
This is LPP's argument all
features
over
of
again.
differentiation of the cells. So I think that you're operating basically on a very shallow fundament, a scientific fundament. I don't think that.
You're so shallow. You're just so shallow.
Yeah, and what is Otangelo operating on? Now, that's why I kind of wanted Otangelo in here today, because I wanted him to draw a few things on the board for me, or at least, verbally, which everybody who knows biochemistry should be able to do. And
I don't think Otangelo understands that people can specialize and look into different subjects that don't require knowledge about like the underlying physics or chemistry or things like that. Like otherwise you'd have to learn the whole of science all over again. Like, I mean, I get what he's saying, but it just seems kind of silly to me, because like I can't learn everything. I'm kind of always trying to specialize here.
Well, then, later on he starts pushing back on you appealing to experts. 99.9% of all evolutionary biologists believe in evolution, right?
Right.
I mean, so these are the experts, and these are people that study that particular field, but then they may not be biochemists, and they may not be molecular biologists or population,
That kind of adds to the weight of it, because you can have people from different fields all coming to the same conclusion
and agreeing.
More weight to it.
Yeah, and the thing is, so it's like, but the subtext of what Otangelo is saying is that he understands it all. That him and his cat's board, that he's, as a layman, which he admits to, he has spent the time to go out and learn all of these various disciplines. And I don't see that.
Pretty much impossible at this point in time.
Not only that, but damn well Otangelo hasn't done this. I mean, it's pretty clear that he has a very shallow understanding. Like when he lists, and then where the hell does he list his 19 things?
Oh yeah, I was like, some of those things seem to be like repeated themselves.
Yeah,
reworded. Like these are kind of all from the same few mechanisms. They're not separate from one another.
Oh, and then he says something like, scientists only understand 2 of these things. It's like, what? Each one is like a field in itself, right? I don't know where he said the 19 things. Maybe I got it here.
Oh,
I would say that if you don't have an understanding on a biochemistry level, Andrew, then you are basically empty-handed, because it's on that level that actually the mechanisms are.
Yes. Okay, and
so
go ahead.
No, all I was going to say is about like Otangelo calling him out about understanding, biochemistry. Like Otangelo knows a lot of terminology and he can use the words and stuff, but how much does he really know about it? Like how?
I know. He's talking about the mechanisms, which is really interesting because, as laymen, you guys, I would not expect you to dig into it like I have. But the reason that I so solidly believe in evolution is because I've looked into the mechanisms. And I really doubt Otangelo has. For some reason, creationists look into the mechanism only to the point of seeing a lot of complex shit going on. Oh God, that's complicated. Oh, that's amazing. That's just, oh my God, look at that. And I look into the mechanisms, as lever A pulls, lifts the rock up and whatever. I mean, I look at the actual mechanisms, and that's why I believe evolution to be true.
Right.
But not everybody's going to do that. So what do all you atheists do? And the rest of you on the panel, what do you all do when you don't want to make this your life, like we have?
It's funny because how you just explained it you kind of crystallized it, because like people like Otangelo, they look into science until they find their incredulity. And then they say, oh, this is complicated. This is proof my God did it.
Right. And they come to a full stop. Like, and then they bounce all over the place, like Mind Banner or whatever it was saying. He was talking about one thing after another. And one of the things he mentioned is the eukaryotes and how the nucleus got inside the cell and ended up harboring DNA, right? And they never look any further. Well, the other day I ran into a prokaryote called placomycete, the placomycetes, and they have a nuclear membrane with the DNA inside of it. It's like, whoa, have you guys looked at that? Because that's a fucking bacteria, a seemingly pretty primitive one, except that it has a nucleus. And it's like, if you just look for the mechanism, but if you come to a full stop when you see, oh my God, it's so complex, God must have did it. And that is why they are pseudoscientists. That is why they are pseudoscientists, because they come to a full stop and they invoke magic. And that's all intelligent design will ever be. But
I was just gonna welcome someone in the live chat. Hey, Luca. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Luca.
Always nice to see you over at SFP's channel.
Yeah, he spends a lot of time hovering over there in the chat, I notice.
It seems pretty incredible that science advanced to the point it did, given that most of the early pioneers of science were Christians, were God believers.
Yeah. What would they have done, back when we didn't even know what was inside a cell, or we didn't know about bacteria? What would they have done if they were doing the same thing that they're doing today, coming to a full stop when they see something complex? They would have prayed over people that had an infection. You know that.
I think they did.
I think they actually did, yeah. There was a lot of that going on. And then if you listen late at night on Praise and Low PB's channel, they often talk about how much money is being wasted on abiogenesis research and evolution research, and they would like to put a stop to it.
Abio, maybe I can understand, but like evolution, no, just no.
Well, okay, abio research has gotten us into a field where we are creating specialized proteins right now and specialized RNAs that are designed per person, basically. So, I mean, a great deal of drug design goes back to a lot of that abio research. Maybe not the really, really early, well, some of it, the RNAs and all of that. So now because it's all the same science, we're just studying, figuring out how these molecules bump into each other. And the more we do, the more we find. But that is a really big field right now. There's a whole bunch of really good YouTube videos on designer proteins that they're doing. This company that is involved in it is putting out a bunch of videos. How to design a specific protein for your patient or whatever. Which is why you guys are going to probably live till you're 130 years old, because we're getting into this stuff, or maybe longer. Who knows?
Hey, Speed, can you highlight Leo's comment? I think it's a good.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
I like that too. Yep, he's probably right there.
Yeah.
Hey,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wondered, did anybody see that story over the past week about, I think it was in Florida, where they passed some kind of law that they're making schools now teach kids, and I can't remember what it was. Whether it was science, something that they were some crazy thing that they now are going to.
Yeah, was that down south somewhere?
Yeah, I think it was Florida, maybe.
Florida.
I can't remember whether it was some kind of science thing, or they were saying, like they were going to teach that whatever this topic was bad or was not.
That's what they're working on. They want to get right down into the children's minds as much as they can and control them, because they know that they're bleeding college level kids in the church. They go to college and they see that as they lose their faith. Well, if they lose their faith just because they learned about evolution, then you probably didn't do a very good job of presenting Christianity to them, right? I mean, if you lose your faith just because, God created a universe that evolved life. If that blows your faith out, you never had any faith in Christianity to begin with. I don't know. I don't see why educate. And the other thing is, if you educate a kid properly from the beginning, and then you also do whatever you want to do with Christianity, when they go to college, they're not going to run into this big shock wave where all of a sudden, holy shit, they lied to me about this, they lied to me about that. What else are they lying about? They're lying to me about dinosaurs and humans living side by side. Then I'm going to toss the whole thing out the window. So they're kind of screwing themselves with the kids. Did I make that point?
I mean, yeah, it's awful funny. It's not just religion though, too, but I thought about this a long time ago that, to start with, most parents are kind of dicks to you. They lie to you about a lot of shit. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny.
Yeah.
Don't touch it too much, it'll fall off. That kind of thing.
Oh, God, I hated that one. Brought me back to my youth. Grandma.
Grandpapa.
Grandma was an Irish Presbyterian. She was a problem. Anyway. Okay, I opened that up to whoever wants to come in, and we've got some other things in this video we could cover, though. Let me see. Let me count the way.
It's a pretty good discussion overall. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It wasn't bad. Okay, this one.
Standing right now, so that's what I meant on that.
Well, the origin of the ribosome has nothing to do with evolution because the ribosome had to be fully operational when life started, right?
No, Otangelo.
Sounds
No.
a correspondence school reject from outer space.
Yep. Are you putting people in? It's like, no,
sorry.
the ribosome did
You
not
opened
have.
it up, Luca.
Hi
I
there.
did. But you forgot to put Marshall in. But basically, early RNA or early decoding and coding into proteins is some of the stuff that I'm actually working on. And it did not require ribosomes. And you'll notice when you look at prokaryote ribosomes, they are simpler and they are more RNA oriented. And then you get into eukaryotes and you end up with tons of extra proteins that some of them do make an improvement, but a lot of them kind of seem like somebody was throwing mud at a ball. You know, it's like we really didn't need like 140 fucking proteins in a ribosome. You know, prokaryotes do it fairly well with less, but you can see evolution in the ribosome when you go from prokaryotes to eukaryotes. At least I can. And then when you go back further, what you're dealing with is RNA, small RNA molecules, which is okay. The footprint or the evidence or the trace evidence that's left over is the fact that proteins aren't the ones that do the translation. RNAs do most of the work inside the ribosome. So that kind of points to a more RNA peptide-oriented world because the protein, we still have that footprint still today. Okay. Now, if God had done it the way God does things, then God could have just as well created proteins, a protein holozyme or whatever to translate DNA into RNA or DNA into proteins. Why didn't God do that? Why did God use RNA? Well, it's trace evidence of evolution and how it really happened. Anyway, Otangelo's patently wrong here about ribosomes. They had to pop up fully formed. You know, no, that's not what we're looking at.
Speaking of Otangelo,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I sent Otangelo a message on Discord telling him what we're doing. So if he doesn't show up, that's on him.
Yep.
So it wasn't anything to do with science. It was that as part of their, they wanted to be more civics education in schools, and so one of the points they made is that educating people on the crimes of communism is the cornerstone of VOC's mission.
Oh my God!
Like, wouldn't it be better to teach children that all these countries that have been called communistic truly were not practicing communism? They were totalitarian states. They were authoritarian states.
Yep. Okay, I wanted to also point this part out where apparently Lil Peepee saw our genetics thing where we were teaching genetics to the masses or trying.
One of the funniest things that I have observed from them was, I was maybe last week, it was like how genes function or something, weather report. And what was cracking me up is multiple of the biggest trash talkers that are there almost every day were admitting they didn't understand how protein synthesis works.
Who was it?
I think it was like David, maybe. I don't know. One of the guys that's always on there. I forget.
Oh, Lori has absolutely no clue about anything, basically. So.
Yeah, I forget.
You want to respond to that, David?
Thank you, Otangelo. Yeah, I know nothing about anything, so I have no right to voice my opinion on the internet at all because I know nothing. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah. I gotta start keeping my mouth shut because content.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Scotty. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, David. I was just going to say, if you can't fully explain abiogenesis, you have no right to talk about football or politics,
right,
or gardening.
Right, exactly.
You have no right to talk about gardening.
I should not. My computer should be taken away. Everything. I should be banned from the internet because little PP. Yeah, little
I think that
PP.
maybe you should start a GoFundMe. You should start a GoFundMe.
There you go.
There you
go. John can help me out on setting one of those up because I know he's pretty good at that.
Well, you just need to go to Cat's board and read that thicket. You know, that's all you need.
And note to listeners, when he said John is good at that, he meant Mad Ducks.
Yes, I'm sorry, John. Little PP.
Yep. So
those
then,
two guys, they're just too smart for me. They're way beyond me. Those two guys.
So Otangelo mentions gutless John Maddox, who will not come over
I've
here.
seen they accusing you that you don't have the guts to go actually into the streams and defend your position.
Oh, yeah. Listen to this carefully.
Oh, I mean, I gotta go with false. I've been there multiple times, and usually they talk over me, mute me, or put you backstage in the middle of a sentence. And when you actually start to annihilate their positions, you get muted or kicked. So it's
that happened at Speech Channel. That happened at Speech Channel. The Speech Channel that happened.
Oh yeah.
So wait a minute. Stop.
Wait.
Wait.
Going there now when they make
wait.
The two times he came in here, he was raging.
Well, right, and then so let me ask you. He said that you guys treat him unfairly when he dismantles your positions or whatever word he used there. But
when did he do that?
Has he ever disproven your guys' positions? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, when did he ever do that?
No, he's only come in here to yell at us because we called him a grifter, and I threatened his backstory. You know, his aneurysm backstory. And then the other time was over the Second Amendment thing when he was being a fucking dick face about taking guns away from mentally ill people. And so he came in raging both times. He got put in the back room every time he is almost, well, no, he got a lot of insults all before I put him in the back room. Right. But he was just raging. I mean, fuck, he wasn't talking about. And I've invited him over and over to back his shit up on information.
Yeah.
And he won't do it.
That's exactly what happened. And if you listen to that carefully, right, when Otangelo asks him, that happened on Speech Channel, you can even notice it in the tone of his voice. He kind of like hesitated to answer it. And then he said, yup. He like almost didn't want to say they did that to me because he knows it's a lie. I mean, you can even tell by the tone and the way he answered that question that, he was not being honest, because what you just said was the honest truth. He come in here raging, and that's the reason why I put back, not because he was refuting what was said on this channel. So, he's full of shit.
I'm surprised he didn't go into the John Lovett's liar character. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket.
Yeah. On this next clip, he talks about why he probably won't show up in the channel because apparently he can't convince us.
I think Luca wanted to say something before we...
Yeah.
Oh, Luca?
Sorry, because I've never seen on this channel ever discussion about chemistry that's even good on this creationist channel. So proteins and so on, they do not really know anything about it.
No.
Except maybe Tour, but even Tour, it's pretty bad on something.
Well, see, you misunderstand. They don't have to know anything about it. But if we don't know everything about it, then they're automatically right.
Yes.
Yeah, but we do know a lot about how to synthesize proteins. But
do you know everything?
Of course not.
And they think there's something virtuous about, well, you can't explain how this happened, but I can, because I know God did it. Like, and they think that that's like a virtuous thing instead of just accepting that we don't know something yet. They try and stick it in your face. Well, see, I have an answer. You don't have an answer to that. Like,
yeah. Everyone.
Otangelo says that word for word.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Flying Spaghetti Monster did it. So we can go.
Yep.
Well,
Okay,
well,
let-
oh, go ahead.
I was going to play the clip, but if you got a comment, let her
Oh,
out.
I was gonna say flying spaghetti monster, but obviously the cosmic teapot did it. Everyone knows that.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
And I mean, you can provide whatever kind of evidence that you want, but they simply will not acknowledge anything in regards of how we see it. So the
Because
question
your
is,
evidence
at what
sucks.
point does it make
Yeah.
sense to go there?
Anyway, that was his reason for not coming here. You know, what's the use of going there? They're not going to listen to me anyway. It's like, come on, you got to get better. You got to get better.
Yeah, he needs to
Okay.
get better. We've shown he has no reading comprehension, and even worse,
Yeah.
he just fuses copy and paste material together to where you can't distinguish one source from another half the time. It's just
By the way, this
complicated enough to deal with people who do science wrong. I'd rather go and read a paper and at least understand what they're saying. I can't really do that kind of cross-disciplinary critique or whatever. But you know, if I know what a paper is saying and can restate what their point of view is, then I think I'm doing good.
So
Yeah,
he says that they won't listen to me over there, and there's not really too much wrong with that claim. Where he goes awry is in his estimation why that is. Like they won't listen to me because they're not willing to listen to what I have to say. But that's not the point. It's that what you say is such nonsense, that I listen to it.
Yeah, remember the time he brought a paper and we looked at the paper?
Yeah, he's given plenty of opportunity. I mean, how often has he come in here and ranted and raved about all kinds of things? And everybody gives him the opportunity. It's not people are listening to what he has to say. We just don't agree with you.
And remember, we had to institute that 1 minute reading rule, where if he read for more than 1 minute, he gets muted because he just reads to people.
Goes on and on, right? But he's been given plenty of opportunity, and everybody listens to him. So that's a bunch of bullshit. We just don't agree.
Yep.
Sorry.
I'm not sure what this next clip is, but I called it. Did you see the report? Oh, I remember. Oh, this is precious.
Hey, Andrew, did you see the report that came out that had Neanderthals, Denisovans, modern humans, and I forget one other one all living in the same area? And
did you see the report that came out? What the fuck? He just read this recently or what? Okay. Anyway,
reading at the same time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's been known for a while.
Okay, so which one came first then?
Well,
personally.
Anyway, I think that's about all I had on this video. I just thought that was cute. Well, there's something about chimps up here. Okay, Otangelo, when Smokey came in, Otangelo left right away. It got too smoky for him.
Yeah.
So, did you hear about the new report that they have this stuff called pizza?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I was reading a paper the other day, and there's this new pie called pizza.
And they put pineapples on it and everything, right?
Oh, that was pretty funny.
Oh.
I love the way you said that. That was good.
Pineapple is the cancer of pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one true pizza. Cheese.
I put pizza on my pineapple.
Yeah. That's the only fucking thing you can do with a pineapple.
Has anybody in here ever had a pizza with a cauliflower crust?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it ain't bad.
I made one once, and it wasn't horrible.
No, they're not bad.
That's because cauliflower has a low flavor index, I guess you would say, because you could dry it out and it would taste like cardboard.
Yeah, I've been eating cauliflower fried rice, and the thing is that for a pizza, okay, I put about 5 pounds of bacon on it, a couple pounds of pepperoni, some sausage, green peppers, triple cheese, double sauce. I mean, black olives. By the time I'm done, the crust is pretty fucking insignificant. You can make it out of any goddamn thing you want.
Yeah.
You know, I thought the other day is they had these like cauliflower chicken wing things. Like,
oh no, that don't go there.
Whoa. I think that when you talk to of pizza, I think the best one to try one is to have just mozzarella cheese. I think even better if it's buffalo mozzarella cheese, so you can taste the real pizza. Because if you do have too many toppings on it, you cannot taste the base of it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm on this anti-carbohydrate kick, by the way. So I've been doing, like, I don't use noodles anymore. I use broccoli and zucchini. So because I'm trying to lose this COVID weight. Okay, so let's see. So we got something on chimps here at 147.
You can also play the part where me and Smokey agreed on science.
Yeah, and naturalism.
Once again, that's something that I think is kind of a flaw about the evolutionary model. And actually, I think there's an even better example than that, which is that, did you know, by chromosomal similarity, we're actually more similar to chimpanzees than tigers are to lions. Which that sounds like
Erica told him that.
It's an argument for common ancestry, but if you actually break it down, we know that lions and I didn't even notice LPP left. Anyways, we know that lions and tigers can interbreed,
and bears,
and obviously they don't bring viable offspring, but that does indicate at some level that they had, some level.
Yeah, and he brings up that chimps can't, chimps and humans can't, and the reason for that is different number of chromosomes.
What did he said about tigers and lions? They don't have viable offspring. I thought there was something called a liger.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, the number of chromosomes. The number of chromosomes argument is so dumb too, because pretty much all creationists will accept that horses and donkeys are the same kind, but they have different numbers of chromosomes.
Yeah,
that's why mules are sterile.
Yeah.
I think. Sorry.
But you're not going to end up with a pure breed line by if you got a different number of chromosomes, unless you're goddamn lucky, you know. So,
well, raw nakedness, I like that, but the ending of it was right. Where do you think Danny came from? Should be the end.
There will be no cryptozoology on this channel. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. It will be possible to have offspring with the modern techniques, but no one ever tried that.
So next you guys get on this big thing about naturalism of the gaps. And, you know, when the way I think Senegal presented the argument was pretty reasonable, you know, that you could look at it that way, but it's like, I don't know, what do you want? I don't mind if they want to call it naturalism of the gaps, because that basically calling it naturalism of the gaps is the same thing as saying methodological naturalism. It's like, okay, we got a gap. We don't know what's happening in this gap. We're going to assume that something natural. We're going to go find the mechanism. So I don't really have a problem with naturalism of the gaps, but you do.
All it is, you know, I mean, it's nonsense coming from them. They're just trying to, you know, fight back against God of the gaps. But yeah, you're right, because we're warranted in assuming that an unknown will ultimately be found to be of natural causation, because that's all we've seen, you know. So inductively, you know, naturalism of gaps, yeah, there's a gap in knowledge. Everything else we've ever discovered was of natural origins, so that's probably going to be of natural origins as well.
They tried to accuse me of using the black swan fallacy when I said that.
Yeah. Oh, the thing we want to look at is the size of the gap we are trying to get the spark to go across, right? Okay, for naturalism, the gap is pretty fucking small. We deal with very tiny gaps. With their thing, the God gap is pretty damn big. You got to admit, like light years big. You know?
Uh-oh. I think Dessel is displeased.
Oh no! What is that? What that frowny face is there?
I think so.
Well, you know, Dessel is always displeased about every fucking thing. So who cares? I don't care.
Yeah, that seems to happen a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, Dessel's displeased. He is a contrarian from the moment he gets out of bed in the morning. So
yeah.
Anyway,
He's a
Hey, did,
good guy.
ignore you, Dessel.
Did we get past the naturalism of the gaps before I was able to get back to the?
No, we haven't played
No.
it.
Oh,
I don't know if we should play that whole thing.
well, can I make my comment about it?
Yeah.
Well, with naturalism of the gaps, you want to think about something that's discontiguous with your explanation. Like we call it God of the gaps because step one, natural explanation. Step two, natural explanation. Step 3A, 3B, C, natural explanation. Oh, here's something we don't know, so we're going to say God. That's discontiguous from the kind of explanations you're doing. When you say naturalism of the gaps, you're just saying the same ideology or the same approach you've been using before is going to be the same way you explain it. It's just an anticipation that things are going to continue like, in your inquiries like before. So it's not about conclusions, it's about methodology, and the thing that's discontiguous is naturalism is God of the gaps. So
your comment paired well with mine.
I just think that if you find God and you study God, God will become natural, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
So we are doing it right. They are doing it wrong.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
We want to
because naturalism of the gaps is one of my favorite things to talk about. And I think Scott really hit the nail on the head with what he said. And just to add on to that really quickly, naturalism of the gaps is completely incoherent. It's akin to saying inference to the best explanation based on established precedent of the gaps, which makes no sense. We presume, and there's a difference between presumption and assumption, where in the former you generally have some degree of some prior knowledge or data that you can, use to base your presumption on, whereas an assumption generally doesn't have that. We presume natural things because we have only ever established a precedent for natural things. God of the gaps is fallacious because, as Scott said, you're proposing something fundamentally dissimilar to anything we've ever measured that deviates from the established precedent to explain something that the established precedent hasn't yet explained. That's fallacious because it's an argument from ignorance. However, we have an established precedent for natural things. In fact, those are the only kinds of explanations we have a precedent for at all. So presuming those, even, if we have no idea what this is, presuming that it's natural is just inference to the best explanation based on precedent.
It seems like everybody wants to flesh my point out further, Speed.
Yep.
Since Leo's in here, can I ask him a question, Speed?
Yes. If you dare.
Nobody sees a wizard. Not nobody, not know how.
What?
We see the wizard.
You haven't seen Wizard of Oz?
We can see.
Did nobody get that quote? Really, guys? Come on. Nobody sees the wizard. Not nobody.
There he is.
Not know how.
There he is. We can see him.
What, the wizard? I'm not the wizard. I don't know. It's not me.
So what the hell does ox mean? Not very fair to have Leo and not Danny.
What?
I don't get that.
What?
He wants to see me and Danny go at it, and I'm just like, if we have a discussion, it's not at all going to go the way that you think it's going to go.
Boy, we got a kind of a personal question in the chat there.
Which one,
Leo?
Yeah, no, I don't have a lot of body hair, so I've got hair under there, but it's not a lot, and I'm thankful for that.
I think raw nakedness is macking on you, Leo.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, Andrew. What was your question that you were going to?
So I was asking about this naturalism of the gaps thing to a professor I often email. Especially
Can I ask who the professor is? You don't have to share if you don't want. I'm just curious.
I'd like to keep their name private if that's okay.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, that's all good. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have asked that on live. That's not on a live stream. That's a stupid thing to do. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So in response to the natural or the way I framed it, which was basically how creationists frame it, that you don't know something, but you're assuming that it's going to be natural anyway. So we brought up an example, and I kind of understand it, but I was hoping you could maybe help me better understand what exactly he's saying. So the example he brought up was basically, say for instance, you're walking down the street, and there's a baseball drops right next to you, and and you look around and you don't see where the ball came from. You just know it dropped right next to you, and you assume, for instance, that someone or something dropped it from a higher elevation. And of course, at that point, in this context, the creationists would say that God dropped it. So the second stage of the example was that you go to a nearby office, for instance, and look at their camera recordings and find that it must have occurred at a certain elevation, around 40 feet or so. And so then you go and find a woman who happened to take pictures at around that elevation, and she spots some kids playing around, and the ball seems to have come from there, but you can't confirm it. And so he concluded by saying that the argument is incoherent because it frames it in such a way that if we don't know the origin of where the ball came from, we can't know anything about the ball, like its trajectory and how far it came up and things like that. And I was wondering if you might understand that a bit better and maybe help me understand it.
It seems more he's referring to something like somebody invoking a naturalism of the gaps as it relates to the origin of the universe, or something, or maybe even origins of life, or and some sort of origins where just because we might not know how it originated, how it got here, or where it came from, doesn't mean we can't understand the thing. The thing I think with the naturalism of the gaps that just is what makes it incoherent is that it's trying to argue that presuming, based off of the only established precedent that we have, that anything that we come across that we don't understand will likely be explained through the natural is somehow fallacious. That's what the argument is essentially saying, that, well, if you can't presume that it's God because we don't know what it is, then you can't presume that it's natural because we don't know what it is. The problem there is that we have a precedent for things being explained by merely natural mechanisms. We have literally no precedent for anything non-physical or non-natural even existing, let alone having any sort of mechanisms or way to behave or interact with the natural world.
And can I throw a comment in just kind of to flesh that point out a little bit? Is it
go
not
ahead.
only that, but if you look at the history of scientific discovery, all the places where they said we don't know why that happens, it must be God, have all been proven to be naturalistic explanations.
Exactly.
So we have a precedent.
Yeah.
Can I?
Icarus
and
had a
that's
good
the thing.
comment in the chat.
Just really quickly, the explanation they're turning to, we've actually tested that, and it fails miserably every single time.
Hey, I don't, Leo. I don't know if you've been following chat, but they are getting very personal about you. I was wondering if maybe you could pull a Gavin and maybe
No.
No. If they want to know, if they want to know anything about my body, there's only one person that they're going to be able to ask, and it ain't me.
Okay.
It's my future wife.
I mean, if you want to know about Leo's
and
body,
she doesn't even know that you have a body.
If you want to know anything about Leo's body, you have to join his OnlyFans.
I don't have an OnlyFans.
I was just kidding. Just so you know, I was kidding.
Icarus had a good comment in the chat. If you drive along a road and only see red houses, what is the color of the next house? That's naturalism. Naturalism of the gaps will say the next one will be red too. Go to the gaps. The next one will be an alien spaceship.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That really sums it up. Which one? It's not saying one of them is correct. That's not the question here. Which one is more reasonable, especially given our prior knowledge? Given what we already know, is it more reasonable to think the next house will be red, or is it more reasonable to think that it will be an alien spaceship?
Yeah, well, that's like with my response when they invoke the black swan fallacy. I'm like, no, I'm saying the next, if I'm hatching swans from eggs and I have a swan egg, I'm going to predict that it's most likely going to be a white swan because the only swans I've seen have been white swans. Right. You're saying that the next swan is going to be a dragon because I can't know that it's going to be a white swan.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the example of red houses, if I were driving along the road seeing all red houses, I would be looking for the house that wasn't red.
Yeah, you would be looking for something that breaks that pattern. Exactly.
That breaks the pattern, right? Because that's the way that's the way nature works.
And that's the way science works. Like scientists, they look for patterns, but then they also test those to see, can we break these patterns and under what conditions can we do this? If and this is my opinion. This is what I'll say. I think that if non-physical or non-natural things really did exist, we would have found some positive indication of that by now. We haven't. We haven't found anything that indicates that it's even plausible.
I mean, each one of us are looking. Like when we walk into a room, how many of us see ghosts every day? It's like, I don't know. We're looking for anomalies all the time.
I think I may have an unpopular opinion here.
Well, go ahead with your unpopular opinion, sir.
I think the whole thing about natural and supernatural and stuff like that is kind of pointless.
It is.
Well, it's not really pointless. It's just more philosophical than it is empirical.
Because supernatural has such a poor definition. Actually,
I really don't think so. In fact, I would argue the opposite. I think that it has a well-reasoned and well-understood definition. And because we know what the definition of it is, we know what people mean when they say supernatural, we can show that the supernatural... I would argue that the supernatural is that which exists metaphysically, externally to, and independent of the natural world.
Which would be more natural world as far as I can tell. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, but I think because it exists metaphysically external to and independent of the natural world.
If you watch a Hollywood movie and the paragraph that describes it says supernatural events, you're going to expect ghosts or some kind of human kind of thing, like some kind of Harry Potter incantation or all of this. It's all about the human mind, what they think of as supernatural. No, I'm looking for a supernatural that's more like what you said, Leo, like something that breaks the universe where like regularity no longer works at all.
Well, right. And you said that which exists outside of the natural world. Like, so point to examples of that. Like, we don't have any yet. Like,
exactly.
It's just,
I would say that's metaphysical. Supernatural is something that interacts with the natural world, but is not part of it.
Exactly. That's what is. Yeah, that would be the claim.
But then
supernatural things may have the capability of interacting with the natural world, but they're not. Just like you can play a video game, but you're not like actually in the video game or connected to it at all yourself.
But that kind of in a way describes what is around. If you could, it's a bad word to use, but what is around the cosmos? What is the cosmos in? Which may not even be sensible, but what is outside of the cosmos? Why did the cosmos do the thing it did with the big expansion? That sort of thing.
The reason that I try to have a working definition of it. And everybody I've given my definition to, atheist, theist, deist, doesn't matter. It says that they actually think it's a pretty good definition. The reason that I like to have a working definition of supernatural, and the reason I like that definition, and it's a pretty good summation of what people mean when they use that word, is that I can then from that show how the concept of supernatural is incoherent. It is indistinct. The category of things that are supernatural is indistinguishable from the category of things that don't actually exist at all.
I
can give not just one, but 4 arguments for that.
Mm-hmm.
Can I guess just so we're on the same terms, Leo, can I kind of define how, or try to define how I think of the supernatural?
Sure.
So rather than thinking of it as some object or thing, I kind of think about it more as a statement, but I kind of think about it more as a statement that can never be reached. In the sense that, to me at least, something that is supernatural is something that is both unable to be investigated and unable to be understood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is that if something is supernatural, even if it did exist, there's no way you could ever know that with any meaningful level of probability, because there is no way you could ever. When we say that we know something exists, or when we say that something exists, that is inferred in some respect as a result of our interaction in some way, shape, or form, either directly with that object itself or with other phenomena which result from that object's interaction with its environment. But if we can't in any way, shape, or form ever measure, detect, observe, quantify, or meaningfully understand and describe something supernatural, then you can't ever make statements about its existence. From what would you be inferring that it exists? And so we see it becomes indistinct. Some X being supernatural is indistinguishable from that same X not actually existing at all. There is no meaningful distinction between the two. And that is the problem with the supernatural. That is why I am a naturalist.
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem is, like, to me at least, if say you're talking about like an anomaly, like you could say that because us within this particular level of reality, whatever you want to call it, we're kind of looking outwards basically, and it seems like to define things as there's this level of reality and then there's this level of reality above that kind of seems a bit kind of overstepping the bounds a little bit, because
it's superfluous.
Yeah, what the hell's a level of reality? I don't know.
Well, that's my point. Like, if we say we have, for instance, something that we're investigating, but according to the definition of supernatural that I'm using, something that is unable to be investigated or unable to be understood, if we're looking at that, how would we ever know that it cannot any longer be investigated and can no longer be understood, because of the fact that we don't have access to that kind of knowledge, that we're basically that's our working axiom at this point, that we can investigate it, that we can understand it. And to me at least, it seems like the supernatural is basically a statement of our ignorance that is increasingly moving out. It's not something that actually exists or has any real merit as a concept.
Of course. Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think the fact that the supernatural is separate from the natural gives the fact that you can't measure it and quantify it and understand it and define it. And it's because of that that you have no way to distinguish it from the same thing, the same concept that you're calling supernatural, but it just doesn't exist at all. What does it mean for something to exist, but exist in such a way that it's as if it doesn't even exist at all? How do you even know it exists? You have nothing to infer that from. The whole concept of the supernatural is incoherent. It means nothing. It doesn't mean anything to call something supernatural.
Can
sorry.
Sorry, just real quick, Speed. Can you highlight Geo Sam's comment? I think that's what I'm trying to allude to, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that we can understand isn't
exactly.
But this is the thing. I don't define supernatural as anything we just don't understand yet. A lot of people define it that way. That's really not what supernatural has ever meant. The supernatural is a term that's always referred to some substrate or essence or what have you that is separate from, metaphysically, the natural world and exists independently of it. It might interact with it, but it is independent of the natural world. It isn't a part of it. That is what somebody means when they say that, like, God is supernatural. That it exists, but it exists as something fundamentally dissimilar and detached from the natural, despite potentially interacting with it. But the thing is anything that we could measure and define is immediately no longer, by that fact alone, is immediately no longer supernatural.
Are you talking about Ghost Rider?
Yeah. I have a fun story to tell because I went in a school that was believed to be infested. So I can tell that I've seen very strange things. But so I
What have
think.
you seen?
Sorry?
What have you seen?
I've seen doors open and close without anyone around. And
Okay.
I've seen it with some other people beside me too. So I do not say that's real and there is something. Maybe it was just some kind of hallucination. But if someone will ever prove that something like that is real, I think that will count as natural, even if you cannot explain it.
Was this consistent? I mean, could you stand there and you knew the door?
Of course not. I've seen an episode like that just 2 times over my 5 years on that building. It was quite fascinating. It was an ex-asylum and now is turned into a school. A very old building. It was used even by Napoleon. His sister married in that building. Just think about it. So I just think it was suggestion, but I can say that I've seen very strange things in that place.
So, and what you just said? Just doors opening and closing?
Yeah, but it was no one around. I mean,
something like that. I mean, to me,
there
buildings,
was no water.
Right, but I mean, buildings, whatever it's made out of, no matter what it is, especially wood, is constantly expanding and contracting with moisture and all that. So I mean, that's an easy explanation for, buildings become out of level, doors can easily swing and open and close with
I
just
don't
the slightest amount of wind.
I don't think Luca is saying that like supernatural is real and ghosts are real. I think he's just pointing out, this is an interest. I've experienced these really, really interesting things, but that I still think that there's probably some sort of natural phenomenon that would explain it. And we just, I don't have the ability to investigate this to the best of my ability and actually figure out either that or I just am not interested in figuring out what it is because I can presume that it's probably, a draft or and especially very, very old buildings settle and they move and that can change angles and doors can close and they can open and all that stuff,
Well, see, that's the thing.
That's what he's getting at.
We could test and see if there's a draft in the building or all this. Like we can test for natural explanations. The problem with supernatural explanations is that once you start concluding that supernatural explanations are possible, there's no way to distinguish one supernatural explanation from another. Maybe it could be ghosts.
You say it's God, I say it's
maybe
fairies.
it could be a wizard causing you
Yeah,
to hallucinate them. You know, it could be anything.
Yeah, I do not think that supernatural that ghosts are real or so on and so forth. But I just saying that I've seen strange things. I cannot explain it because it was quite an experience. It was not like a subtle movement. It was literally a door opening and closing before my eyes. So I don't know. My best explanation right now is I was hallucinating for whatever reason. I cannot explain why a guy beside me saw the same thing. But yeah.
I mean, there could be more than one explanation. You know, it could be that the wind blew the door a little bit, and then your mind filled in the gaps and made it seem like it was, you know, opening all the
Okay,
way.
I can
It could
say
be shadows.
it was not the wind. I'm sure about it because it was too subtle to be. It was too violent.
Oh yeah.
I can. Yeah, it was not.
So you're saying the door like opened and closed, literally as if somebody had turned the knob, opened it, and then closed. Like, wind isn't gonna do. Yeah.
I have seen the nude moving, so it was not the wind. Maybe I was hallucinating. It is a very old building. It's very a strange atmosphere if you enter it in the morning when the sun is not up yet. So
Have you gone back and experienced it more than once?
2 times, and one time was with a friend of mine beside me.
Was it the same door each time?
No, it was different.
So I'm flying out there.
Wow.
I want to see this shit.
I have a question, Speed. Is Rod Mechanist? Is that stupid horror energy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So did
Oh my
anything else
God.
happen?
Somebody let Dessel Drace in the room. Who the hell?
You know, you can just call him Drace, right?
Yeah, I know.
Did anything else happen besides the doors, or no?
Yeah, one time with it was a quite strange experience. If you tell me, I was with some friends and I was in the main building. It's a ancient villa, and other than the villa, there are other buildings where the patients were kept. So we enter in this building and it was abandoned. It was not used anymore, so in complete disarray. And we were inside that building, and we were experience the sound of someone walking around, and no one was there. And we did enter in a room, and it was a very strange room. There was only a chair and trash everywhere, but on the walls, and the chair was was beside a window. It was close to an open window. It was very strange. It's possible that someone was there, but we did search the building. No one was there.
I feel like I'm in the middle of Coast to Coast with Art Bell.
I remember that.
So that's where my experience, and I do not have any reason to lie. It was possible to be yes. So
can I ask a question? So did you go there looking for something possibly supernatural? You know, because the building had that reputation, or was that
okay? The third episode was something like that. I was with some buddies, and we were searching, and old abandoned asylum. So yeah, it was like that. The first two times with doors, no, I was just in my school. One episode happened with just me as a witness, and it was very early in the morning, so very dark, very suggestive situation. The
Yeah,
second time
yeah,
with the door was in the middle of the day with my friend beside me, and there were other people around us. The door just shut like that, and it was
yeah,
quite strange, but
yeah,
that was my experience. Over 5 years, it's not like I have been there three times
yeah,
and
yeah.
seen every time that kind of thing. So
Are you going to go back again?
yeah, I go there time to time, and I did have another experience with my girlfriend, and it was quite funny because I I go there with my ex girlfriend, and it was in the middle of the day, summer, and suddenly she started to tell me, "I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold,"
Yeah, yeah,
and she was pretty afraid, and she took two photos
yeah.
with her cell phone, and she find over. Sorry.
So strong.
Scott, you're not muted.
Oh.
Okay. So
I was thinking
she
come a little bit closer, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay.
she did take these two photos, and she find the morning after a lot of photos on their cell phone, and she freaked out, and she was in bed with me, and she started eating me because she was convinced that I was pranking her, and it was not true. The camera had some kind of malfunction and did take a lot of more photos, and they were all blurred. So she did freak out and eat me when he was sleeping. It was quite an experience to be waken up by a mad woman like that. So I think that's all on that place. You can find it. It's quite famous. The son of Mussolini died there, and he was killed. So it's quite known place. It's the villa of Mombello near Milan.
I've got this. I guess you call it a hypothesis I've had for a long time that at some point in the future we'll find out that incidents of people like seeing ghosts and apparitions and things like that, we'll find out that has a natural explanation too, that might be linked to the space-time continuum or whatever, that there's like a flaw in it and something's bleeding through from another time or something like that.
I don't know. I don't think so. That's just that would be a paranormal explanation instead of a supernatural one. But so I think that the explanations we've gotten from psychology.
Hold on. Why would it be paranormal if science showed that it was something wrong in space time, where there was like a rip in space time or something? It was letting like a past event bleed through. I mean
I'm not saying your explanation isn't possible. So the way I define it, like paranormal, is something that could happen, but it's not the way we see things right now, right? Like aliens would be a paranormal event.
Right.
But what I'm saying is I don't think it's likely.
I'm strictly talking about science coming up with an explanation that is, based in already known functions, of the universe. I'm not talking about anything outside.
Yeah, so I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying that the way, like what we know about how science works right now and psychology and things like that, I think that already offers an explanation. So I don't think it's likely that we're going to have this other explanation. But I'm just putting my prediction out there to counter yours.
Geez, don't you have anything to add to that, Leo? I figured you would have jumped.
Yeah,
right
I figured
in on
Leo
that.
would jump in.
I know. That's what I was waiting for. No?
I mean, I don't think that there's something like that. I feel like if space-time was structured such that events like that could happen, special, maybe not special, but relativity in general would have definitely given us an indication. But who the fuck
string
knows?
theory calls for
I
what?
will.
I think it's
Dimensions, right?
What?
So
I
string
think it's
theory
possible
calls
there
for
could be
11
certain like
dimensions, right?
Yeah, that's one of the main issues with the string models is that they posit more than the 4 dimensions that we know. Anytime your model does that, your model immediately stops working, and that's why string theory, they had to bundle them up at an extremely small level that we'll never be able to measure to essentially make them effectively meaningless for the model, because any model beyond the 4 dimensions that we know is so godforsakenly fucking, what's the word I'm looking for?
Right. But that's kind of what what John was talking about, right?
not unparsimonious.
Right?
Is that what you're trying to think of, Leo?
Just incoherent. It makes like they just straight up does not work. And if you start going 5, 6, 7, it just does not work. It is so dissimilar from everything. You get no meaningful predictions. Your math is so fucking shoddy. And that's why I don't accept the string models. Most theoretical physicists don't. So then, and the thing is, it never really was popular. It was popularized, but it was never popular.
Yeah, I will put the link for the asylum in the private chat if anyone wants to have a look of the Excel asylum. My school was nearby. It was the villa, and you can find it on the same page. So yeah, if someone wants to have a look, it's a very fascinating the place.
I want to like elaborate on what I said real quick because I feel like maybe I'm not expressing myself correctly or I'm being misunderstood, because like what I'm saying is like, okay, so somebody sees a ghost, like we've all heard the stories, like, you know, somebody sees a ghost and then they find out, well, oh, it's the woman that lived in this house a century ago or whatever. And what I'm saying is that it's not like another dimension, but like that maybe there's something wrong, or a tear, or there's some other force acting on space-time that makes this past event bleed through, so we can see it now. And like I'm saying, like with a naturalistic explanation, like not, not that it's anything supernatural or I forget the word you used.
Paranormal.
It's that there's some flaw in what we already know space-time to be, and what they're actually seeing when they see this ghost. Like if they see a ghost crossing across the floor, that it was actually that happened a long time ago, and that person walked across the floor, but for some reason, because of some flaw in space-time, it's coming through in that particular moment or that particular area or whatever.
Right.
I think a
get
better
what
way
you're
to word
trying to
it would be to say something like that humans, maybe it could be a property of space-time, but possibly a property of humans where they might pick up fleeting moments of another time, so to speak, in that area where, I mean, it's all a natural phenomenon occurring in space-time, but for some reason humans can see in a very ethereal sense, can sort of see events that already took place in this area due to, I don't know, maybe the way that, our consciousness is produced as our brain interfaces with reality. It could be some weird temporal effect. Who knows?
Maybe it's just our brain making tricks on us.
Yeah, so that's where I apply Occam's razor. We know that memories are faulty. We know that people can actually have completely false memories. You see the the picture of the woman that used to live there, and then all of a sudden your memory rewrites itself to say, "Oh, that's the thing I saw." So you know, I would think that's a more parsimonious explanation than to propose this other mechanism of space time that we have no idea how, like, why it should even be a thing.
Yeah, that whole idea about the remembering something wrong and your memory rewriting itself it happened to me, and it cost me a lot of money. I remember something somebody said very differently from the way it was, but I would for years I would stand there and swear to you that that's what they told me. But then the one day I just realized, wait a minute, it's like it reassembled itself back the correct way, and I went, wait a minute. You know, that's not how it happened at all.
And then so you ended up with a warehouse full of Betamaxes?
No, luckily not. But I bet I could sell some Betamaxes today.
I actually saw a man bear pig when I was 4 years old on my grandpa's farm. And I had this memory of the man bear pig. And it was like, I think it was a pig. I think it was one of his boars. And it must have been real hairy. And it jumped up on the fence and scared the shit out of me. But my memory of it is very much, when I saw a man bear pig on South Park, I'm like, fuck yeah. I know that shit. I've been there. I've done this.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. But how you, I watch, I sort of keep track of when strange events happen to me, like dreams. And I've learned to watch myself modify the memories, which sounds kind of strange, but it's kind of like this inner theater where if you're aware, like when I wake up from a dream, I will watch myself edit that fucking dream into a story. And I've done this over and over again. And then when I think back, okay, what do I really remember from like right after I woke up? And it's a whole lot different than what my modified version of it. But by the time an hour has passed, I can only remember the modified version of the thing.
Well, isn't it true that when you remember something, you remember an event, every time you bring up that memory, you're not actually remembering the event, you're remembering the last memory that you made about that event.
Right. Yeah.
And so the more you remember something, the more altered it can get. And then even they've done tests where people can say things and like lead you on and completely change the way that you remember an event so that it's not even the same event anymore.
So can I say that I completely retract my hypothesis now because Stephanie's agreeing with me?
I would like to say that I have never experienced anything like that, at least that I can recall. So you people are kind of really fucked up. So how do I get to have those experiences?
my brothers and sisters,
What
my
kind of
brothers and
drugs do I have
sisters
to
saw
take?
ghosts.
Can you send some of those drugs over to me or something?
Speed, you said that after an hour, like you'll just remember like your version of it. But like, do you ever like wake up from a dream and then like as time goes on, like a half hour, an hour, like now you can't remember any of the dream? Have you ever had that happen to you? Like the dream just kind of
yeah. It goes away. It goes away. Like it'll go away in 15 seconds if you don't somehow note it and modify it.
Yeah, that's why if you want to be able to remember your dreams, you should start keeping a dream journal.
Yeah.
I've done it a few times, and like within a few days of actually writing it down every time, you start to remember so much more detail from your dreams when you do that.
I just want to have better dreams. I hate my dreams. I always give my dreams like 1 star, 2-star Yelp reviews.
You need to learn lucid dreaming.
That's what I was just going to ask. Has anybody in here ever experienced lucid dreaming?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've practiced it. I've gotten to where I can do it on command.
All right, check this out. When I went to prison, right, I had been smoking weed daily, multiple times a day for years prior to that. Well, you know how marijuana affects your dreaming. You don't really dream a lot, okay? And then so when I stopped smoking weed for like the first 4 or 5 months I was in prison, I was having the craziest motherfucking dreams, dude. Like it was just, they were insane. And then I developed the ability to, if I wanted to get out of the dream I was having, if I was to, in the dream, take control of myself and walk just go anywhere in the dream, like even if I was outside or something, like if I would lay down and close my eyes in the dream, then I would wake up from the dream.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a lot of false awakening dreams where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wake up, and then I get up out of bed, and then I realize I'm still dreaming, and then I wake up again.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me too.
Oh, that's a device that they use in like different TV shows and movies and stuff. Where you think you're awake, but then you actually wake up a few minutes later. Hey, Mike, I want to thank you for letting me be on here today, and I'm going to have to go. The room just got too crowded for me.
Yeah. I have to go too. We're gonna shoot this in the head now. So, anyone got anything to say?
Orange Charioteer asked if I was poisoning myself again. No, this is just sparkling water.
Yeah, we're always a little worried about you.
Oh, that's right. I remembered. Now I just dawned on me what they meant by that.
You like to drink sparkling liquid bread?
I do, but that's not what I'm drinking right now. This is just flavored
sparkling liquid bread.
Yeah,
Okay, the only reason
fermented bread.
Marshall, I don't know if you want this outed or not, but the only reason you did that the other night was as a public service announcement to us YouTubers on what not to drink before we go on, before we turn our fucking camera on.
Don't drink, Captain Morgan. Patron is acceptable. Captain Morgan is a no-no.
And we want to thank you for taking one for the team like you did. You know, we actually paid him to do this. So I don't know if anybody figured that out. Okay, guys, we're gonna shoot her in the head.
Okay.
How do we do that? Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, Crew World.
Bye.